And I think one of the things that we're obsessive about is bringing together very talented individuals. And you've talked a little bit about, Silicon Valley being a mindset rather than a location. What can we learn in London, in Berlin, in Singapore from Silicon Valley, and how can we create some of that Silicon Valley magic here?
So I think you're already en route. It's one of the reasons I was happy and delighted and honored to invest last year. I think I'll do one thing that probably is relatively obvious to most of the folks and one thing that's less obvious and answer that. So the obvious thing is that to some degree in entrepreneurship, because it's like throwing yourself off a cliff and assembling an airplane on the way down, people tend to have hesitancy. There tends to be well, what if I fail? How will my friends look at me? How will my family look at me? All the things that could go wrong. And because of all those things that go wrong, I should hold myself back. And obviously, in Silicon Valley, we don't do that at all, right? And to some degree, we have it a little structurally easier because that's the cultural norm within Silicon Valley. If you tried a startup and you did something, interesting doesn't mean you really succeeded and even got on base, but you were playing well. Lots of people want to hire you. Lots of people want to fund your new thing. And so you can continually cycle. So you're taking less risk in Silicon Valley than you are in other places. But still, I think the key point is actually, in fact, you're taking, the risks are not quite as scary as they seem. There's a vibrant venture community here. We're in the process of creating an even more vibrant of a great entrepreneurial community here. And technology is, in a sense, the future of all industries. Right? Software is transforming and defining the world. So to think about the entrepreneurial venture, don't overstate the risks in your head. Right? That actually, in fact, you can, swing for the fences, I guess, is more of a baseball metaphor than cricket. Right? I'll think of what the cricket analogy is. Right? But you can actually, in fact, go for it. And your downside's not that much. And so having that ambition and driving it is, I think, the important thing. And, I know I've been part of the entrepreneurial conversation in London and the UK long enough to know that this is a subject that's discussed as how do we have that conviction, boldness, be willing to take that risk. And I think a key part of that is to realize that the risk might be as big as you think. So that's the more obvious one. I think the less obvious one is thinking about where can you actually, in fact, break traditional rules? So a classic one, actually, by the way, for entertainment, this afternoon I did my first recording in Masters of Scale that I've done outside the US from my hotel room here because it was we needed to be doing production. And the episode that we were doing, part of the thing that I was emphasizing in this episode was that classically MBAs are taught, do your unit economics, do your business model, figure that out first, then scale. Because of course, if you don't figure that out and you get to scale, the whole thing can be kind of a train wreck. So the production process makes you think, okay, you should figure that all out. What is your cost of customer acquisition? What is the lifetime value of your customer? You should figure that all out from when you're starting. One of the things that we do in Silicon Valley is we say, well, which of these canonical rules can you throw out as you're effectively going? So more often than not, especially within software companies, especially within consumer internet companies, you will ask a seed, Series A, Series B, Series C founder what your unit economics are. And I don't know. Right? I don't need to sort that out yet, right? And what I actually need to do is I need to get to scale first. The generalizable lesson when you think about this from how do I internalize that, is to think pretty seriously about which rules can you throw out in order to go faster, in order to play out your hypothesis, in order to make progress in your business and your company, in order to get the next, kind of larger scale-up round of financing in order to go down that path. Maybe it's the business model one, maybe it's another one, but you have to be thinking about, I solve as few and important problems early as I can, and I don't try to solve them all from day one. That's the mistake, right? And so that was one of the reasons why one of the earliest episodes in Masters of Scale was letting fires burn. And some of those fires are, maybe I don't know what my unit economics are, and maybe I won't know for a year or two in that specific case. That's okay in a number of businesses. Now, for example, if you're doing a hardware business and you're building a new chip, figure out your unit economics. Right? So it's which ones apply to your business.